We are very excited to be here today and talk to you about getting involved in the Koha community. My name is Jessica Zairo. I'm the Director of Library Sales and Outreach at ByWater Solutions.
Oh, wow. Who are you? My name is Kelly McElligott, and I'm the Library Accounts Coordinator, but also just a lover of Koha.
I'm Nick. I'm one of the developers.
I think we've heard a lot about this presentation all week, but to remind you all why we're here today. Our presentation, we're going to really talk about how to engage in the Koha community. A lot of presentations this week have talked about Koha and getting involved and volunteering and how we can make this software better. And that's really what we're here to talk about today, is how to do that. Every little bit helps. So whether you think making a comment wouldn't make a difference, it really does on a bug, or filing a bug like I talked about yesterday to say, I just want a search box. That's okay. That's how we're going to make it better. We're also going to talk about how to efficiently use Bugzilla. So if you're like, what is Bugzilla? It sounds scary. We will show you all the things about Bugzilla, create an account, make a comment. We'll talk about the statuses. And then also during that conversation, we'll talk about the development cycle. So what it exactly means in all the stages that you see it in Bugzilla. And then, yes, how to sign off on a bug. It is not scary. It is super easy. And we're going to do that today. So are we excited? It is 9 o'clock. There are donuts in the back. So you better get some sugar. We're here. Oh, I don't know who's next. Jessie.
Okay, so the first thing to think about with the Koha community is our libraries. How many people out there have worked on Koha in more than one library? Woo, look at those hands. It's so important. It's power to the user. I mean, that's one of the biggest things we always talk about. Being part of the Koha community gives you access to users worldwide. How many people have also made a best friend with a country that you don't live in? Oh, I just want to get up and hug. You make these connections with people and you're talking to different users. You're talking to people about how they can connect, how they're using Koha at their library. You're sharing report ideas. You're seeing how they make tweaks on their OPAC to make things easier to use, and you're getting ideas. If you worked on a different system prior to this, did you have that same type of feeling? Did you have that same type of connection?
Yeah, I worked on Polaris before, and we're able to integrate with other people in different states and things like that, and just kind of hash out what you wanted to do differently or propose.
David, did you do like user meetings and groups?
Well, actually COVID was happening, so not really in person, but yeah, within like email chains and threads and stuff.
All right, that's good. That's what we like to hear. That's one of the things that we love about Koha is the community, which takes us to our next one. Having that inclusion, which we heard them talk about yesterday, being part of a community where you can share ideas and joining the conversation. That's one of the things we're going to talk about today, is being able to put comments on. It's not just about signing off, it's also about giving feedback, telling users how things work at your library, discussing the workflow, saying, you know, this works at my library or this doesn't work at my library. And then of course, the development process. We're really going to talk a lot about how that process works, how you can be a part of it from start to finish.
Maybe at some point during maybe a training or reading about Koha, you learned how Koha was created. You know, in essence, it was created by librarians. So if anything, this software is speaking to you by librarians. And it's every time I've been on it for 10 years, it is improved drastically by the librarians itself, like saying, wouldn't it be great? So remember that Koha was created by librarians for librarians. We're speaking for you through this software. So again, we will say this over and over, but the power is in your hands. Like it's up to all of us to say, wouldn't it be great? So we should just embrace this power. We could wear a little super cape if we wanted, and really just, you know, be that person that's going to make that difference, or say, I would love to see it. And then when you see it, it's a pretty awesome experience.
One of the great things about the community is having these gatherings. We saw the hands a couple times. How many people, this is their first KohaCon? Well, that's incredible. Let's get a round of applause. There are so many different ways to get involved. There's monthly meetings on IRC. There are Zoom sessions that people hold, summits, hackfests. How many people have been to a hackfest before? I'm going to let Nick talk about that because Nick got to experience that live.
Yeah, I mean, the hackfests are great. It's a good time for the developers to come together, but not just the developers. When we have librarians there who can, give us feedback and help us improve our bugs and kind of get that live, real time, it moves things forward so much, and it just really invigorates the community to have everybody together like that.
So, unfortunately, we're not all together most of the year. So we have to figure out ways to communicate with each other. And that's really important to have those conversations throughout the year. Again, through a couple different ways, the Koha community has created that. You could do it through the listserv. Is everyone signed up for the Koha listserv? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good. I can say, honestly, I don't read them all. Is there anybody that reads them all? Probably Liz. Oh, Christopher back there. Katrin probably does. But I do put them in a folder because I know if I get asked a question, I can refer back to it because I know we get a lot of emails. But that's just a great way to get involved and to know what the community is talking about. For example, the staff interface is getting a facelift. So that's a big conversation that's happening on the listserv. And I just want to be involved. I want to know what's happening. What are the changes? And again, I have a voice, so I can make a comment and say, ew, I don't like that. but I wouldn't. I mean, like I would, but I wouldn't. I don't know. Go to a Koha community event. We talked about the SIGs yesterday. Join a Zoom meeting with any of these SIGs would be an opportunity to also network, meet people, find out what other libraries are doing, and then just to get that, conversation going in the Koha community. ByWater, if you're a ByWater partner, we have a Slack channel. That Slack channel is like on fire most days. The report channel is an amazing place to just like lurk and see all the amazing reports that are coming through. So if you're not on the Slack channel and you are a ByWater partner, come see one of us and we can sign you up. We're good. And now it's Nick's turn.
So as the whole point of this, the most important thing is just to get involved and to kind of reach out to the community. For the community, the main chat space right now is going to be IRC. That is where you can find the developers, other librarians, all of us live. There's almost always somebody there. Now, if somebody doesn't answer you, that doesn't mean that you're being ignored. We are all in different time zones. So you may get lucky, you may get not, but it's a good place to go, see who's there and just ask around. You can just go into the channel and say hi. If any of you want to connect right now, you can go to the Koha website, click on connect, and it'll take you to a web browser where you can be an IRC and just say hello to everybody. And it's a great place to ask questions, to see what people are up to, or just to lurk and kind of see what people talk about. There are monthly meetings. There are monthly developer meetings, and then there's Koha general meetings. The developer meetings you are welcome to attend as well, but the general meetings are where there's kind of less developer-y talk, more librarian specific stuff. So this is Bugzilla. Before we get too deep into this, I just want to say, we call them all bugs. That doesn't mean they're all bad. Our software is not full of bugs. Bugs are also our enhancements. They're the new features. They're all the good things, sometimes the bad things. But Bugzilla is where all of that happens. So one of the first things you should do to get involved, I cannot stress enough the importance of registering, signing up for things. If you join Bugzilla, you'll be able to then go in and comment on all of the bugs that are there. We'll go into this deeper, but it really is, this is where you can have an impact directly on the developers. You can go look at a bug, see the workflows, and let them know how that affects your library. They will listen to a librarian way more than they will listen to a developer. I can go in there and I can suggest things all day long, and then they say, well, how does this actually work in a library? And I'm like, So it is really important to have your voice there. I think I said all of that. It is a pretty slide. I didn't talk about signing off a bug, which we will demonstrate to you at the end of this. We're going to have a live sign off. Signing off is kind of that first step in the community of moving a development forward into Koha, just kind of saying that it works as it should. That's, yeah. Where does it start? Okay. Like, where do I go? So developments, how does Koha get new features? How do these things, get into Koha? Where does the idea come from? It starts from contributors, and that's largely going to be the libraries and our partners, people who reach out and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Koha did this? That's really the first step. That's where all of you can get involved. You can go and file a bug if you have an idea about what should be in Koha. It may not get done right away. You may need to find a developer, bribe them with cookies. But filing that bug is at least a way to get your idea out there into the world. That way, when the next librarian comes along and says, hey, I wish Koha did this, then you see that there's 2 people. They go and they comment. And then the next librarian. And at a certain point, there's enough that you can all pull together and say, we got to figure out how to make this happen. So once you have that, you have contributors, you get someone to do the work. A developer is either paid or just does it for fun. Comes along, they write the code, then there's testing. So the code is submitted to the community. The first step of that is having a test. It's a sign-off step. And that's really just, you go to the bug, read the test plan that the developer has provided, or ask them to give you a better test plan. But you read the test plan, and all you are responsible for is saying what they said it does, it does. And it's a really low bar. Everyone should be able to do it. That's how I got started in the Koha community. I went to Koha in Reno, and Paul Poulin gave a presentation about how anyone can sign off on a bug. And I was like, well, I can sign off on a bug. And that's really how I got involved in the first place. Anyway, once it has been tested, QA, quality assurance, they are your friends. Sometimes the developers out there, we get a little sad because they fail QA and they say, you need to rework this code, but they're doing it to make the product better. And that's really the important step of this, is making sure that the code not only does what it says it does, but improves Koha. It doesn't affect anyone else's workflow. It's not going to make it harder to use, and it's just good code. Once that has all been done, sometimes from this step, it'll go right back over here and kind of loop around in this circle for a while. And that's not a bad thing. That's how we refine our ideas, rework them until we finally get them forward to the release maintainer. The release maintainer is basically the one who sits at the head of the code and just pushes all the new developments. They have the final say about each release, what's going to go in, what's not going to go in. And it's a great job if you've been involved in the community for a while. I've been a release maintainer. Lucas has been a release maintainer. We don't have a release manager, but anyone else been? Brendan's been a release maintainer and a release manager. It's fun. And then finally, they get the really fun job of saying it's released. So they push it out to the community. They make a big announcement. We see all the changes, and everyone is happy. You get upgrades. We love it. Are there any questions? Phew.
You're doing great, Nick. You're doing great. At the end of our presentation, before we go live, we will have a QR code, but we just want to let you know, because it's open source, there's so many resources out there, so many places to find this information. Definitely the Koha community website. There's a link to how to get on the mailing list, how to get involved in Koha, a link to Bugzilla. Jessie and I have done quite a few tutorial videos on setting up a Bugzilla account and doing the comments and signing off. And then finally, where you can find a sandbox, so a safe testing ground to sign off on those bugs. And quite a few vendors in this room have sandboxes that anyone can use, and we're going to use those today. Anything else? Okay, so this is the big moment here. We hope everything goes well. We hope we find the right bug to sign off. But what we're going to do first is just show you the Koha community page. If you haven't been here, bookmark this. This is where you're going to find any information, if you ever want to download it yourself, the download is there. This is how you can connect to IRC through this area, how you can get the calendar. There you go. There's your IRC link. There's your calendar. We can look when the next one is, Jessie. I subscribe to this on my own Google Calendar. And so it just shows up. Oh, look, the koha-US events are on there too. Yeah, add to Google Calendar, yeah. And then documentation. Oh yeah, we wanted to talk about that. Included in part of the Koha community, the manual comes out twice a year. So that's a lot of work. David Nind right now is currently in charge of documentation for 2211. Is that right, Carolyn? Yeah. And he has a huge job. So he wants people to help him with that documentation. If you are interested in that, there is a group of folks that do that. And that's also in Bugzilla. So there is a different status or queue, I don't know what it's called, that says this needs documentation. You can even do that. If you go to the manual and you find something that is not well documented or is glossed over, or you think it needs more work, that is also something you can file with in Bugzilla. You mark it as a documentation to say this is needed. And that's really helpful too, to say, wouldn't it be great if we had more information about this feature? Or it's changed and it hasn't been updated. Again, that's helping everyone who goes to that manual for that information. Oh, Nick's going to talk about the dashboard.
The dashboard is kind of the hub of development. It's a really easy view of kind of what's going on, what bugs are out there. And it just also kind of highlights our oldest bugs just to make sure that we're kind of paying attention to these things. Just an important tip up at the top, we've got overall bug tracker health status. That is a expandable menu. If you click on that, it pops down and it shows us all the kind of major issues right now. This is very good for developers and testers to focus on because these are the things that we kind of want to clear ahead and clear up and move ahead. So you've got needs sign off. As I said, that's the first step. That's the testing. Needs QA. This is done by the QA team, but anyone is welcome to join. Once you've done enough, some sign offs, the community, if you can read the code a little bit and you can kind of understand that stuff, join the QA team. It's great. Needs documenting. This is the list of the ones where you need to go in and write new code for the manual. Easy enough to do, especially if you've sponsored a development. Write up some documentation, explain to people what it does, how it's useful. And then over here, you've just got kind of interesting stuff, the last sign-offs and the newest features pushed to Koha. So if you want to kind of see previews of what's going to be in the next release, yeah. Scroll down a little bit. This is actually where I always come and I start, is right here at the bug statuses. You can click on any one of those links there, and that will take you to a view in Bugzilla of all the bugs that are currently in that status. So if you're looking for things to test, you come here, you click on need sign off, and here is a list of them. You can, they're lists, you can order them however you want to. You can add different fields and see it. You can order them by assignee if you have a favorite Koha developer, like, I don't know, Nick at ByWater Solutions. You want to test off on their stuff, especially. Oh, wow, Alicia has a lot of stuff right now. Go, Alicia. And then underneath down here, Lucas and I were talking about this last night. I'm going to admit there's a little vanity here, but this is why I set up a Koha testing environment initially. It's because I wanted my name on these lists. I really just wanted to see myself here and be able to keep track of it. Oh, look at Kyle go. So this just kind of shows us an example of what everybody's been up to and who's been doing the things here. This name you're almost always going to see right at the top there. David Nind. Katrin, surprisingly, Kyle is ahead of her in QA, which is almost never the case, but that's amazing. And then down here, it's just more statistics for kind of the whole year. You can see that, well, there, Katrin's back on top. Ah, yes. Okay, so rescues are when there is a bug that was failed QA in discussion or in some other status that it couldn't move forward, and you have come along and changed it back to a status where it can move ahead again. So I got a lot of rescues, which sort of implies that I've had a lot of failed QA. But no, that's not true. I don't know what you're talking about. So now we're back to Bugzilla. Am I still talking? Oh, okay. So we saw on the other page how we can search. You can do the need sign off. You can also do a search here, which if you click on that will give you lots of options. Or you can just type a simple search in here at the top. So what do we want to look for? Holds. Okay. So when you do the search, it gives you a list. These are organized, it looks like, by assignee and then by status right now. So we can see all of those. New bugs, assigned bugs, in discussion, all great places to jump in if you just kind of want to talk about it. In discussion is where a bug goes when we say we need input. We need either ideas from libraries or developers. We just kind of need to unlock this bug. This is a really great place to have people come and comment, because otherwise things can get stuck here. Because what will happen is a developer will say, I need to hear from a library. And if we don't, it's not going to move forward. Oh, good call. Okay, so importance, this part we don't really use so much. However, anyone can feel free to change it. If you think that something is very important, go ahead and set that. There are no rules about setting these fields. Let me be clear. You know, be cool, man. But you can come in and change these things. Enhancement, this is really, this part we do pay a lot more attention to. Enhancements are for things that are improvements that are not affecting workflows. So they're not problems with Koha, but they're new things that we want to add. New feature is slightly above an enhancement in that it's a whole new feature, maybe a module, something that Koha has never done before. Enhancement is just an improvement to existing behavior. And then the rest of these are bug statuses. Trivial, meaning something that, you know, we're fixing it because it doesn't look right or something like that, but it's not actually breaking any workflows. Minor, very, you know, an inconvenience. Normal is just the default status for bugs. Now, when you hit major, that's something that is affecting library workflows in the real world, and we really need to address it. Critical and blocker. Critical usually involves data loss, and blocker means that something is broken entirely. If things are set to blocker, then we will not release, the release can be held for that. Like, we need to get that addressed in the next release or in the next stable version to help move those ahead. Okay. So yes, every 6 months there's a release, usually in November, May. But in between, we have stable releases every month. So once a Koha version is released, every month we do a point release. So there'll be 2111.01, 2111.02, and that happens every month. That's the job of the maintainers. They work very hard to backport all the bugs that have been fixed in master and get those into those versions and release them to everybody. What else? Oh, there it is. Vote. I mentioned this yesterday. This is a cool feature that you can use. Come here. You get 30 out of 200, or you have 200 allowed. Jessie has used 30 of them so far. Votes are really just kind of a way to indicate that this is very important to you. You can allocate those votes however you want to, just to kind of give a clue to the developers. It doesn't, it's not a promise if you vote on something that we're going to take care of it. However, it does allow us to do a search and order by the number of votes. So we can see if there is a feature out there that has a lot of librarians saying, we want this. That may be something that we look at as a developer that we want to try to get funded, or just kind of to do when we have a little free time, depending on what it is. Yeah, so change sponsored, that is when a library or consortium or individual has paid for development. That that just indicates that this is probably something that is going to move ahead. Changes that aren't sponsored, you're kind of at the whim of the community waiting for somebody to find it. But a sponsored change usually means that somebody has paid for this, we're actively working on it, and it's going to move ahead. When you sponsor things too, your name ends up in the Koha release notes, your name ends up in the about page on Koha saying that you have sponsored something. So it's a good way to just acknowledge that everyone who's contributed to Koha is there. Oh, okay. So CC list. Once you're signed in, because of course you've registered, everybody registers for everything. No one forgets. When you come and look at a bug, without even having to make any changes on the bug, that little add me to CC list box will be checked. And all you have to do is hit save changes and you will be subscribed to that bug. Every time there's a change, an update, you will get an email that tells you what's going on with that. So it's a real good way to, if you're not ready to comment, just come in and follow the bugs that you want to see. You can then at least be involved. And when it gets to a point where maybe they have a question and you have an answer, that's a good place to jump in. Oh, do it, Kelly. Oh, let's go back. Okay, so, all right. So these two sections, depends on means that there is another bug that this code is being developed on top of. So that somewhere somebody else has written code and you need to have that code before this one can go on. When a bug depends on another bug, then it blocks that bug. So this means that 17873 depends on, I don't know, 18042. So it's just kind of which way does that relationship go. So if we go to 17873, it will say depends on 18042. So these bugs are kind of tied together and one can't move ahead without the other. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, what Liz asked is if I wanted to explain the difference between developer speak and normal human speak, roughly. A lot of things in Koha, they were originally named the database tables got names. In the database, holds is called reserves. So when developers talk about reserves and we file bugs, we're probably going to put reserves in the name. Whereas when a librarian comes here, they're probably going to put holds in the name. Somewhere there's a wiki page that has the preferred terminology, which I think will list some of the things that developers say and what actually should be said. And some of that too kind of goes into when you're talking about filing the bug, considering what keywords you want to put into it. But that's a big issue, Liz. It is important to remember to think about different ways that you could say the same thing to kind of look for it. Is that covered? Okay. Do you have a bug that you want to file, Kelly? Yeah.
Yesterday, I talked about adding a bug for a search on my plugin page. So I thought this would be a good example so we can walk through those steps because it may sound very overwhelming. So Jessie just went ahead and once you're signed in, you have to be signed in, register, it's all free. And go ahead and create a new one, pick Koha. The next big thing is the component. Sometimes I'm wrong when I pick my component because I'm not sure, but there are people like Katrin and other developers that will come in and correct it if it's in the wrong component. So this could be plugin architecture, but I also think it could be administration because really all I'm doing is adding a search box to the page. System administration, perfect. Then once I pick that, I will see the description. So if I think I'm in the right place and I read the description, I'm like, nope, not so much. Now, for version, it's currently doesn't exist. So I could just say master. It's right now, nothing exists for a search option in the plugin page. Severity, Nick talked about those. I'm going to pick enhancement, and that's really all I'm going to do in that top half. What I love about putting in the summary, this is that title of my enhancement. As I start to type, Koha is going to give me choices to say, is it one of these before I file a duplicate bug, which is super helpful to know if it already exists out there. And maybe what I searched originally, I couldn't find it, but as I start to create a title, the Bugzilla figured out that it already exists. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I think description is the most important part, is to be as clear as you can to tell the developer what you want to say. Now, you know, when I learned, it was like, make sure you identify the page you're on. So like that URL of admin.pl or something like that. So to say, I'm on this page and I would like to add a search box. So Jessie's going to pop in there so we make sure I'm in the right PL. So it's under administration. Perfect. Oh, see, plugins / home. So I may just say, it would be great for Koha to include a search option on this page to allow the user to search the plugins that currently exist on the system or imported in the system. Great job typing, Jessie. It's at least you have two hands. Maybe put existing. Yeah. Again, we're trying to make sure that we're clear on what we're looking for. If I experience more of a minor bug, I may do the steps that I went through to get to the point where I said, this is a bug. So I started here, I did this, and then this is what happened. So instead, I don't really have a workflow other than to say on this page, it would be great. And Jessie's going to go ahead and do steps 2. Oh, and I could add a screenshot. I could add an attachment that also could help a developer understand what I'm trying to explain. Has anyone filed a bug in the room? I'm sure there's quite a few of you. Yay, good job, good job. Okay, and then all you have to do is hit submit. Because Jessie's logged in, she is automatically going to be CC'd on that bug automatically. And then from there you can, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing me. There I am. Okay. Oh.
That search, as you see, it does autocomplete. You can feel free to add people who you think will be interested. Please don't tag me on every bug in the world, but if you do have one that is relevant, yeah, you can go ahead and throw somebody's name in there just to get their attention.
Look, George already responded. What did he say?
I just added a comment that said, I agree.
And usually on this, I will just go ahead and hit throw away my changes and revisit it so that you don't undo George subscribing to the bug. We want to leave that there. We just also want to add our thing. So don't be scared if you see a mid-air collision. It just means that somebody else is loving the same bug you are. We're all hugging it.
In addition to voting, comments are also good to say, I agree, but wouldn't it be also good if, you know, things like that, to maybe do a little, what is that called? Scope creep, and be like, that would be good, but like a little bit more too. So No. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Come on up. Be part of the community. Woo, woo.
This is an example of kind of what I talked about in the keynote to the Kohathon conference that I did. This was a bug that Nick wrote a patch. He wrote this bug and he said, sometimes you may want to report to have an all option. And so Nick had developed this patch where he said, you know, when you're writing a report, it all would just be the option at the top, and then all of the, like for branches, you would see an option that said all, and then you would have a list of all the branches underneath. And I said, I really like that idea, but I have some reports that if you run them for all, the report's going to crash because we've got 55 libraries. And if you try and do some of the reports for all the libraries, they're just going to fail because it's too much data. And so I said, I like this, but could all be optional. And so then an hour later, Nick wrote back and he had rewritten the patch. And he said, in order to get the all option, you have to add like a colon to your SQL parameter to get that all option to come in there. And then he wrote it so fast that I didn't even get a chance to sign off on it. Lizette at Latah County signed off on it because this was something that I had wanted for a long time, and Nick made it happen just like in a couple hours. So good job.
Thanks for sharing, George. That's awesome. Good job.
The system works.
The system works. Okay. So let's hit the sandbox link on the wiki link. This is also included in the presentation, just where you can find the sandboxes, a little bit about sandboxes as well. So a nice information page and those links to those available sandboxes. Documentation, step-by-step. I'm going to talk about when the sandboxes are down.
Sometimes it happens.
Sometimes it happens.
Jump in IRC.
Go into IRC and tell somebody.
Don't get nervous. Don't get scared.
It's not it happens, but it won't be known about until somebody tells somebody. So make that your mission to say, oh, I'm going to let somebody know because we all depend on these. Oh,
I just wanted to make sure, does everyone know what a sandbox is? The idea is that the sandbox is kind of a protected area, like a sandbox on a playground, where you can sit and play around with things and it's not going to affect the real world. So you can go in there, make changes. While you can use them to sign off for bugs, you can also just spin up a sandbox if you want to test out features. It is a great place to come and explore with Koha things that you don't want to do on your production system, especially if you don't have a test system.
okay. So here we are in the sandboxes. Can you go to the other sandbox? Because I can't use a create option there. Yeah. So up at the top, you can see sandboxes. We can see any existing sandboxes that are out there. They do have an expiration date. So once you create it, you just have a few days. Now you can, of course, renew that, but just know that they do expire. When you go ahead and create, very easy, your name. This is going to be useful when you sign off on that bug. That will be attached to your name. Your email, so we know you are a person. The sandbox name, very specific. Don't do a lot of stuff. It's like a couple letters or just lowercase. The bug number, and then everything else is fine except for the security question.
The bug number, if you put that there, that will automatically apply the patches from that bug when it creates the sandbox. You can also put the word master there, and that will give you a current development Koha with no extra patches applied.
I thought you could just do nothing there.
Oh, maybe it's just
That nothing
It
if you
can be
want. Oh, there was a question. Yeah. And that would be, you could use that to say, oh, I saw that 22, oh, whatever, 2211 has this new thing I want to try out. Okay. It's going to take just a few minutes generally. Once the sandbox has been created, so we filled it with sand, you're going to get those two boxes, staff and OPAC, and that's going to give you a direct link to that newly created sandbox. Oh, the login, which it tells you on the sandbox page, is going to be koha. So username and password the same. There's a very small amount of data in the sandbox. And then once you are in there, you can go ahead and follow that test plan. Lucas filed a bug this morning, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Let's look at the bug first. 3. Six 1 8. No 8s at all. So this says material specified note should include an ID on both the check-in and checkout page. Ooh, sounds exciting. So Lucas created this bug and also gave us this on comment 2 or comment 1, the test plan to test, apply patch. That's what you've done by creating the sandbox. You're applying the patch that he's created. Find an item and add a material specified note to it. So we're going to go over to our sandbox, grab a record within the system. We're not going to have all the hot new releases in this database. You're going to search something super simple. There we go. We're going to grab an item. Oh, there is, it's already in there. This is a material specified slot. Okay, what's the next step? Add this CSS to the internet user CSS system preference. So we're not going to go to the Koha administration. This is why it's really important to know steps are important. So you know exactly what to do and what to add. Internet user CSS. There it is. We've pasted that in. Wow. Great job, Jessie. Lucas, thank you. What's the next step? Oh, Edna. We're going to check out. I didn't know there was a step. Check it in, check it out. Because we want to see that material specified. Wow. Do we love the red? This is where we might comment and be like, wow, that's a lot of red.
Should it have to be white? Is it accessible?
Is it accessible, Lucas? It doesn't have to be red. We could change, and that could be a comment. You could fail it and say, I mean, we wouldn't, but we would. Just saying. Okay, so we went through the entire test plan, Jessie, or we have to do one more step? We have to check it in because we want to see it in both the checkout page and the check-in page. Oh, that's a little bit better, but not as clear as the red. Is it not the same message? Yeah.
It is. Okay. A great example.
This is a great example. Hooray, sign off.
Shouldn't have read. Okay, well.
Oh, it looks, Owen already signed it off. Thanks, Owen. That's okay. It's fine if somebody else has signed off on it, but you still want to do it, you can do that. You can still walk through the steps yourself.
But I think we're going to have to fail it because it says here the background of the material.
And the check-in note wasn't read. So we could add a comment and say, I'm sorry, Lucas. It's a really good example.
Don't feel bad about failing QA on things. I know we were up here looking regretful. We're like, oh no. But because we know Lucas, but really, failing QA is a way to tell the developer this isn't working. If you leave it at signed off and you just put a comment that says, hey, this didn't work for me, the developer may not notice that as much as noticing that our bug is in a failed QA status and knowing that we have to do something to move it forward. So yeah, we're not sad about it. We're not mad about it. We appreciate it. I'm just declaring that for every Koha developer. So in this case, it worked, but not where it said it should. It worked on one page, but it didn't work on the other page. So you could fail it. And yes, if you test it and you were like, this red is awful, you can fail it. And you can just say, that red really bothers me. And what in this case, Lucas would see that and he would say, hey, it's just the CSS. We can make it blue if you want. Correct. The red in this case is an example of the fact that you can apply CSS to it. But again, but what I want to be clear is that that's clear to Owen, who does a lot of design. That's clear to me because I do development. If it's not clear to you, fail QA, because we need to write test plans that are clear for the users, not for us. Sorry, Lucas.
The sandbox and just show the steps if we could pass it, or the actions that are involved in here. So we went into whichever one we were in. Under this action, there is a drop-down menu that would allow us to do a few things, because there's a few steps that you might find in a test plan, like you have to do a reindex or you have to refresh the schema. There is one that says sign off on patches, and the next one below that was renew the sandbox, which would give you more time. You spun it up, but you didn't have time to finish it. There are some bugs that have a long test plan and you want to make sure you do it yourself. And then again, you're going to give your name. I think the hardest part for me was the number of patches to sign off on. And so that is something you're going to find in the bug where the patches are. And that's it. Yeah. Can we pop over there to any bug and just show the very top? Oh, a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. This is one patch. So you could have more than one, but that's one patch. So I know I'm going to sign off on this one patch. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that seems super reasonable. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the first question I have, since we're still right here with the sandboxes and all that, what if you come across a test plan that says something like prove, and then there's a long, if it has steps in it that you don't understand and that you can't do in the sandboxes, what do you do then?
Great question. I'm going to pass that over to Nick.
You sure, Kelly?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. So what I usually suggest in those cases is test everything that you can, do the parts that you can, and you can just say what you didn't. Now, approve, those are specifically unit tests. The unit tests are code that we write that can run and check that everything works as it's supposed to. It's essentially automated testing. And it's generally lower level testing. It's not kind of front end testing, but it's testing that back end to make sure that all the changes make sense. That is really a QA step. Developers will put that there because without that step, QA will fail our bugs, but it is not necessary for the sign off to do approve step. And if there's anything that you're like, I tested on a sandbox, so I couldn't do X, Y, and Z, you can just say that and still sign it off. Oh, you can comment on the bug, or you could go into IRC and ask someone, hey, how do I do this?
I knew the answer. I just wanted to make sure everybody else had the opportunity to hear you answer the question. And then on on the YouTube feed, somebody earlier on asked the question, what if you're filing a bug that's already been filed? What happens then?
Yes. So one of the things you can do if you just scroll down here, Kelly, is you have go back up a little bit to the box. Yeah, there you go, the comment box. In these statuses, one of the options you can do is change it to resolved. And when you click resolved, you're going to get a second little pop-up box. Go ahead and click that. And it gives you these options. So one, if you come into Bugzilla and you realize that you have, there's a development that you paid for or something that you just noticed in Koha, and you see there's a bug open that says, hey, it would be nice if it does this, go ahead and mark it fixed. If you find something that's already been dealt with, the one we're looking for in this case is duplicate. So if you file a new bug and you find that there's an old bug with the same idea, you click on that duplicate, and now it's going to give you a number. And you just pick one of the two. It doesn't really matter which one. Generally, we pick the one that either has more information or more comments. Like if one just describes the bug and the other says how to recreate it, let's keep the one that says how to create it. And when you type that bug number in there, it will close this bug. And on the other bug, it will link them together to say that that was a duplicate of this one.
That's great to know. I think what the person was really asking is, should I be afraid of accidentally filing a duplicate? So
no. No, again, like I do it all the time. I have come in here. There have been times where I have come in and I've been like, I want to fix this thing, and I file a patch only to find out that Lucas has already filed a patch and Owen has already signed off on it and Brendan has already QA'd it. Because you can't be aware of everything that's going on in the community, and we don't expect you to. We understand that librarians are librarians, not developers. So we really want your input, but we also value your time, and we know that it is important. So do not be afraid of commenting. If you don't understand the test plan, ask. No one will get upset about it. We want you there. We are a very inclusive community who's happy to have your input. So don't be afraid. None of us are mean. None of us are mean. So the question was, is only one sign off needed per bug? Yes, as long as it doesn't fail QA again. Sometimes the bug will get signed off and the QA team will have questions maybe about how it works or if a library wants it. So they may say, I'd like to see a second sign off here. But generally, yes, just one. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just going to repeat it, but it's getting long. Thanks, George.
Just you're not supposed to sign off on your own bugs, but Lucas has filed a bug on my behalf as a librarian. Can I test the bug and sign off on it, his bug, even though it really is mine? I just didn't write it.
Yes. You can't sign off on a bug that you've written, and in a company, you can't sign off on each other's bugs, basically so that Lucas and I and Kyle can't get together and just push a bug through the community process without outside involvement. As someone who has, asked Lucas for the bug and commented, you are an interested party. You care if it works or not. So yeah, you can sign off on that because we know that you want it to work right.
Just a comment about writing, submitting a new bug. I always find that if you're doing a bug like interlibrary loans, I always put both ILL and interlibrary loans as one word and as 3 words, because if people are searching, they're often they search for ILL. And if you've written interlibrary loans, they don't find it. And same with holds and reserves, really. I tend to put both words in the comment, somewhere in the comment section, so it's findable.
Thank you.
This is sort of a deeper existential question. So our library went through COVID, and we went through COVID without a director. I'm sorry, I'm going to get a little emotional. So for 2 years, we had no direction. we had this wonderful product, nothing could be done with it. And then for another year, we had no cataloger. So my mentality has been, I just live with it. If it's if it's uncomfortable, if it's unusual, if it's I just live with it. I'm trying to really hard to not only break out, but get the rest of my people to break out of that mentality. So how do I do that? Like, do I need to go to a therapist, or do I just need to like talk to you guys more, or go out for a beer occasionally? You can come up to the northwest corner of Connecticut. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how to like break out of that mentality.
Yeah, that's a big question. And thank you. But what I will say though is that we went out to dinner the other night and we talked about one of the bugs that you had out there, and you were explaining how you hadn't like paid attention, but talking to me, you kind of realized like, hey, I can just have a conversation about. I mean, I hope you did. I hope that's yeah. And so that's sort of the point, is that that's kind of what we're trying to say here, is just we are a community and we are here for you when you're ready. When you're not ready, we understand. We'll give you space. But if you ever, you can even just reach out to us if you just want to talk. Slack IRC, if you just want to chat with the community and see things, go ahead. And I think that the only thing that I know that we can do is try to show you that we are friendly people and that we want to help genuinely. We really care about this product. Yeah. I'm going to stop before I get emotional too.
Be sure to come to a koha-US special interest group, and there'll be people there that can help you.
Yeah, so koha-US, everything. I mean, other libraries, there's a lot of people to kind of reach out to. And even just joining the listserv and just seeing that other people are kind of going through the same thing can help a lot.
Just to say also that there are other user groups elsewhere in the world too. So we have Koha user groups in the UK. So if you're a UK library listening online, then there are Koha user groups there, and I'm sure there are others elsewhere in the world as well.
There's Kohala, the French group. Sonia is great. She's very active in the community and she's very friendly. And I mean, there's user groups everywhere. We can't talk about them all. I get focused on the room that I'm in. They told me they were going to do all the talking.
I hope that nobody asked this question while I stepped out of the room, but since you guys do our hosting, if we have a bug that comes up, do we submit it or should we bring it to you and have you do it? Pardon me? What? Oh, thanks.
I would say both. Submit it to the community, file the bug, especially if you have the steps that can recreate it. But if you work with us, also file a ticket with us to let us know about the bug. Because that way it'll kind of just, both are good. If you file in the community, that lets other community members know so that if they're seeing it, they can also say that they've found it, see your bug, and they can confirm the behavior.
And again, if you're a one-person show or feeling overwhelmed, just submit a ticket. Don't even file the bug. Just have us do it if you are a partner. So you don't have to feel that responsibility to say, I have to add one more thing to my to-do list. Maybe next week I could do it, but I wanted to do it right now. And that filing that ticket would be the quickest way and the easiest way you can do that, or later touch base.
We're a community. We help each other.
Yeah, 100%. This is the QR code. If you want to click that, or these presentations will be available next week. They said we also have a blog post that has all this information on our website. So thank you very much for listening. You guys are really awesome.